like Iran's has been enriching uranium in amounts and to levels far above what's necessary for any civilian use, it's worrying because it has actually put them in a position, according to American intelligence, to be able to build a functional weapon, maybe in a matter of months, as Trump said, but also maybe in a matter of years, where we just don't know for sure. One of the big key things is that the assessment that Iran hadn't started building one, as far as we know, that had not changed. And with all that, you've had the Iranian...
Yeah, but what is that? What do you mean? It's like... Well, okay, so they have to get their uranium enriched to 90% before they can start building the nuclear bomb. So they were just in the enrichment process. They hadn't started building their bombs, but they were enriching, it sounds like. They were stockpiling. Oh, yeah, dude. It's like, yeah, they were in the process of getting there. That's what we realized.
They only need two things. They need the bomb components
and the uranium, yeah.
And they can be building the other stuff over somewhere else.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, man.
Legitimate response and self-defense, Iran reserves all options to defend its sovereignty, interest, and people. With you then seeing Iran following through on that today, with them attacking a U.S. airbase.
I know, but according to all logic that we've been using for the past 6 months, or the past 2 years, with the whole Israeli Hamas stuff. It's like, well, Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th.
Yeah.
So Israel has every right to defend itself and just obliterate Gaza.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, well, now you just attacked Iran.
Yeah.
So does Iran not have the right to defend itself and obliterate Israel and the United States?
Yeah, so, well, like, last night they were talking about this attack right here that we were talking about.
Which I know they have their reasons why they did it.
Iran let America know that they were sending all of these missiles over there. Yeah. So Iran. So just to think about that, like on like a political scale,
Iran's the good guys.
No, they were no.
They're the peaceful ones.
No, they just have to show.
Oh, come on, the evidence is obvious. They've warned us before they throw their missiles to make sure nobody gets hurt. And they're just over there peaceful, dude.
They're peaceful, man. They are.
There's a lot of tie-dye over there.
That was hilarious. Holy cow. All right, keep on.
Holding more than 10,000 military and civilian personnel. But thankfully, there you had the DoD confirming that although Iran fired multiple short and medium-range missiles, there were no reports of U.S. casualties. Though actually, with that, Iran reportedly gave advance notice of the attack as a way to minimize casualties.
Well, yeah, okay. Wasn't to minimize casualties. They knew that none of their bombs were going to make it through into any type of American soil no matter if that's in Qatar or not. There's just anything that has America, their bomb will never hit. Right? They knew that, but they had to show a show of force to their people. Yeah, and so they had to launch.
That's the story being told.
Why are you all wet?
Because you make me that way, baby.
With officials saying that Iran needed to be seen striking back at the United States, but in a way that allowed all sides an exit ramp. And with that, Trump has now actually thanked Iran for giving early notice, saying perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. And then he added in a separate post, "Congratulations, world, it's time for peace." But of course, we'll have to see if that...
And then like an hour after, he's like, these fucking guys!
Any retaliation made against the United States of America would be met with even greater force than what was unleashed in the initial U.S. attack. If that were to happen, there are obviously concerns about how much more this could escalate, how involved the U.S. would get, and if there's some version of events where we have another version of Iraq or Afghanistan on our hands. Though, of course, even without the U.S., the situation is extremely volatile right now. It's because you have Iran keeping up attacks on Israel, though no more have reportedly been killed yet. And then on the flip side, Israeli strikes have killed at least 400 and injured 3,000, according to the government. Though you also have one U.S.-based rights group claiming that the true number is closer to 950. And then beyond the death toll, Israel has continued expanding its campaign beyond obvious nuclear and military targets. With you seeing them today, for example, striking the gates of a prison famous for holding political activists and the headquarters of the military.
What are you coughing from over here?
Known for cracking down on protests, but those sort of being seen as symbolic targets of the regime, although Israeli officials have continued to insist that they're not seeking to overthrow Iran's government, even as you have Trump hinting at the possibility of regime change. Though notably, you had Netanyahu saying last night that Israel was very, very close to realizing its objectives in the
God damn!
Saying that he would not be dragged into a war of attrition with them. So, we're going to have to wait to see.
Almost like a child. Can't you sit down and do nothing?
Full debate playing out in the U.S.
Not making a bunch of noises.
Connected to the moment for Bernie Sanders as he was giving a speech as part of his fighting oligarchs.
This guy.
The oldest, one of the richest, oldest senators is over here saying, we must fight the oligarchy. I've been a senator for 80 years, and I have changed nothing.
I have zero accomplishments.
I have 0 accomplishments.
But I do have 5 houses on different beaches. Fight the oligarchy! And read my book. Buy my book.
Buy my book. Buy my book. Is there a place to plug that in at?
Yeah.
Over there?
Yeah.
Fuck off, man.
This news.
We must fight the oligarchy. As he's fucking sitting there part of it.
Rich, dude. I bet he has a table full of his books outside of wherever he's speaking right now.
Yeah.
There's a table full of his books.
Is there a
for sale.
table full of your books for sale? That's a good point. There probably is.
The entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The president does not have the right. It might be a good idea if we concentrated on the problems that exist in Oklahoma.
God, look at his face. He's got to be a lizard.
He's got to be a lizard.
Look at him.
Yeah, look, he does look like a lizard.
I can't believe some people are like, "We love you, Bernie. You're the best, Bernie." He's like, but he's not done anything
ever.
Do not
It's like, yeah, y'all
Right, his
y'all
point
love
there
his
about
words.
Trump's act
Yeah,
being
just
constitutional is one that we've seen
Show me how you can
widely
be
by
manipulated.
Yeah.
Show me how easily you
Yeah.
can be manipulated.
lawmakers and experts across the political spectrum, because the Constitution
It's mostly
gives
women that
Congress
like
the power
Bernie
to
anyways.
declare war and to raise and support armies. But it also makes the president the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military, which is language which presidents of both parties have cited to justify military action without congressional involvement. And this long-running debate over presidential war authorities has only been further complicated by the War Powers Resolution of 1973, which says that a president can introduce the armed forces into hostilities in only 3 situations. 1, a declaration of war. 2, specific statutory authorization, argued for a narrow definition of the introduction of forces. And Congress has actually done very little to enforce the resolution. And so in this specific case, Trump officials are arguing that this was a limited strike aimed at dealing with an imminent threat, but that it isn't an act of war or anything else requiring congressional approval. There, you have many experts pushing back with, for
Well, just
example,
do the
John
flip
B.
side of that.
Bellinger III.
Yeah.
So you're saying the president needs to ask Congress's approval to do a sneak attack
Yeah.
on another country's
Nuclear facilities. It's like, no.
No, that's not how that's going to work, bro.
No,
you
no.
can't. No.
No.
You can't be letting that shit out.
Yeah. Just because a
So Hakeem Jeffries
just because a dude
needs to know
Yeah.
about the sneak attack.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders needs to know about
the sneak attack. Yeah.
Yeah,
No. Just because a guy is in a suit and he's older, all right, and he's in a position of power, just because he says something does not make it true. And that's what everyone forgets. It's like, yeah, no, dude, these guys will go in front of a camera and they'll say something at a press conference that's just a complete lie.
Oh, I know that.
And everyone's like, but look, it's the important, powerful man in the suit said it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you talking about? He's just lying to you. Look outside your window.
Don't go outside.
Yeah, don't look down. No, don't go outside.
Don't look up.
The
Don't look
Council
up.
on Foreign Relations, arguing that it's also necessary to look at legal interpretations from the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel, explaining if the use of military force would be substantial and prolonged or would pose a substantial risk to U.S. forces or American civilians, such as from attacks by Iran or its proxies against U.S. interests. There is a good argument that it would require congressional approval consistent with Congress's authority in Article 1 to declare war. And that is an incredibly relevant argument now that Iran has attacked a U.S. military base. And then with all this, we've seen a number of high-profile Democrats also pushing back on the Trump administration's justifications here. With that, including Bernie's fighting oligarchy.
Well, she's a babe.
Oh God, yeah,
So-
she's a fucking super. Yeah,
So I'll vote for it.
yeah. I mean, dude. Yeah, all she needs to do is have some kind of like titty photo leak for me to start voting for her.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Called Trump's decision to strike Iran without authorization from Congress absolutely and clearly grounds for impeachment.
doing?
Rather than adding, the president's
wonder-
this decision to bomb Iran without authorization is a grave violation of the Constitution and congressional war power, and he has impulsively risked launching a war that may ensnare us for generations. This also is, very notably, we've seen divisions emerging among Republicans as well. With, for example, Thomas Massie appearing to be the first Republican to oppose Trump's decision, just simply writing, "This is not constitutional." Them then also telling CBS News that there was no imminent threat to the United States from Iran. Though there, I'll say Massie's stance is an example.
Wait, didn't they just talk about there being terrorist supercells in America that they're going to activate? Sounds like a pretty imminent threat on the home front.
No, man.
No,
They're tie-dye peaceful hippies.
they're tie-dyed peacefully. There's lots of tie-dye actually out in Iraq.
Surprise surprising, right? Because he just introduced a bipartisan resolution last week seeking to block U.S. military action against
bell-bottom
Iran
jeans.
unless
Bell-bottom jeans. They got flowers in their hair
Yeah,
out
they're
there,
going at
man.
it,
Yeah,
man.
the girls, the ladies are allowed to walk the streets.
authorized by Congress. But then notably, with all that, you had Trump responding by seemingly
Which I actually agree with that point. I'm like, yeah, keep it.
communicating Massey from the Church of MAGA. Trump launching a barrage of insults at Massey and saying he'll be out campaigning in Kentucky for Massey's opponent in the Republican primary. Also, despite the divisions emerging in the Republican Party, we saw Trump claiming that there's great unity in the party, perhaps unity like we have never seen before. Well, that is clearly false. We still have seen many Republicans falling behind Trump here. For example, prominent Republicans like...
Damn! Holy cow!
No, all the Republican women are hot.
Jesus!
Have you noticed that? Democratic women aren't so
Jesus.
hot.
Rand,
Republican women,
Mason, at least
hot.
Stefanik, all
Democratic
praising the
women,
decision.
Yeah,
You can also
they're
have
the only
Cruz
one that's hot is the famous one. That
yeah,
Cortez.
learning a number of things
exotic.
about Iran from
Yeah,
Tucker
like
Carlson
her.
of all people, arguing that the attack
She can
was
stay.
necessary, saying the prospect of the Iranian regime acquiring nuclear weapons represents the most acute, immediate threat to America and our allies. And that is, you had House Speaker Mike Johnson explicitly arguing that Trump's move was constitutional, writing the president made the right call and did what he needed to do. Leaders in Congress were aware of the urgency of this situation, and the commander-in-chief evaluated that the imminent danger outweighed the time it would take for Congress to act. And then adding, the president fully respects the Article I power of Congress, and tonight's necessary, limited, and targeted strike follows the history and tradition of similar military actions under presidents of both parties. Also, something that's gotten a big spotlight on it is that not all Democrats are against Trump's decision. Right? And that because you had Democratic Senator John Fetterman backing Trump's move.
That guy's not real. That guy got replaced so long. His earlobes changed. Did you notice
man.
that? No, man. This guy's he's not real.
This guy's a
Strikes
real
were the
deal,
correct
dude.
move, and adding, Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terrorism and cannot have
He's the
nuclear
one
capability.
truth.
And adding
He's-
But for now, we have to wait to see what happens both internationally and domestically. Right? How does Iran continue to respond? How does Trump respond to that? And then domestically, it's going to be very interesting to watch that play out. Though I will say Trump has a majority of Republicans on his side, so like the possible impeachment attempt, I imagine that's going to be dead on arrival. But we've also seen lawmakers from both sides of the aisle demanding that Congress approve any further military action. And so in the meantime, as we wait to see if this is going to escalate into a full-blown war, I got to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts here? What are your reactions?
What are your
to
thoughts?
this news?
Philip DeFranco.
We know what his fucking liberal thoughts are.
Is he a liberal?
Super.
I'm a liberal.
You're not like a real liberal.
Yeah, I'm a super liberal.
Super liberal. Why does he look like that? See, he doesn't look real either. Paul Rudd.